Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video from Aman Talks NRL SuperCoach, here to wrap up the round 9 week that was Magic Round. I'm sure plenty of you went over there and had a lot of fun. I'm here in Sydney, but look, I went last year and it was a lot of fun, so hopefully you all had a good weekend, and there's been some big SuperCoach scores already so far. Recording this on Sunday morning, so this is ahead of 3 games still to go on Sunday, but yeah, I'm currently on 746 from 8 players. I've actually been going okay per player. I just missed out on the big captaincy and vice captaincy loops that a lot of players I think have benefited so far in this week. First cab off the rank would be Nicho Hynes. So first game, 28 points to 18. Nicho Hynes with 117 points. 3 try assists in this game. Looked a little bit more like the Nicho of old, SuperCoach wise, where he just had a lot more involvement. I think he had higher receipts as well of the ball last week as well. So I think last couple of weeks have been a bit more encouraging for Nicho. And with the 3 try assists, he's always got a good floor. He had 43 base power in this game as well against the Eels. He's going to be a very popular player during the Origin bye schedule. I myself don't own him currently. I'm on the Nathan Cleary-Jerome Hughes combo. Cleary's going to miss games through Origin. Round 11, he has a bye. He'll miss round 12. And he's going to miss round 15 and probably a few other games, if you assume that Cleary will play Origin. I think there's going to be a lot of people like myself probably thinking of doing Cleary to Hynes in round 11. While Hynes hasn't been as good as previous years, he's still someone who's very good, averaging over 70 points. He's shown that he can have a ceiling. He's still a goal-kicking halfback for a very good Sharks team, and the Sharks aren't going to be that Origin affected either. So I think I probably will be looking at bringing in Nicho. His price was good this week at 618k. I could have traded Gutherson for him. In the end, I stuck to Gutherson for Lucas. The reason I didn't get Hynes is because I wasn't 100% certain on wanting to sell Cleary, and if I bought in Hynes in my flex, I would have had to have gone Cleary out for Tedesco if I wanted to buy Tedesco in round 12. Getting in Lucas meant it was easier for me to sell like a centre or even a second row forward or front rower, even for that matter, via duels. I just wanted to give myself a little bit of that flexibility. Lucas scored well, so I'm not necessarily disappointed about that. But obviously, a lot of people had the vice captaincy on Nicho, so he went quite big this week. He's had a 55 break even, so he will go up in price. Super's got him projected for a 46k price rise with a 22 break even, so he will be going up in price now, getting back up to that kind of 650, closer to the 700s. Got a game against Manly away next week, which isn't great, and then a Storm at home. So I think there's probably enough for me the next 2 weeks where, well, the thing is, round 11, I could trade in Hynes for Cleary when Cleary's on his bye. He does play round 12, which is useful. Misses round 13, so that is going to be something that we need to be wary of. But if I have a Jerome Hughes-Nicho Hynes combination, then I don't need to worry about Jerome Hughes because he will play in round 13. So you can afford to cover Nicho Hynes at that point. So yeah, I think receipts were up last week. Good performance this week. He brought into the play Britton Nickera, who had an amazing line run for his try for 70 points. He's also going to be someone I think people will start to consider. He was at a pretty juicy price this week at 555k. Even with that 70, he will be going down a touch in price, but not a whole heap. So he's going to be having a break even of 64 and going down 16k. So he's still a decent get. His base power has been lower than it has been in previous years, so I haven't calculated it yet for this particular game, but we're looking at 19 points net tackles plus 27, plus offloads is 31, plus only 12 points in runs, so not a whole heap in runs there actually. So yeah, the base power still is a little bit down from Nickera. Second row forward is a position where we haven't got so many guns that people are jumping at, like Eli Katoa, Hudson Young, etc. So he is probably someone that is worth consideration for a round 12 cover. At the moment, I'm fairly okay with my second row. He's probably someone, if I do want to consider, probably will get in round 12 itself. But you do need to be aware as well, of course, that they miss round 13. And so you don't necessarily need to overload on your Sharks players for that side of things. Cam McInnes was good in this game, had a line break try for 90 points. So a couple of weeks ago, I think when people were looking at selling at hooker, I just suggested him as he's the boring option. He's dual, good base stats. I think he had base power of 63 in this game. And so yeah, 90 points from McInnes would have been good for anyone who jumped on him. Sam Stonestreet was 74 with a double, but he's a bit up and down, so I'm not really necessarily looking at him in centre. We've got so many good options in centre. Kale Iro is one of them though. 71 points, scored a try immediately from return. That left centre position for the Sharks just continues to score tries every single week. 71 points, I think about 45, 46 of that in base power, which is about what Kale Iro was getting last year. He was kind of getting around that 50 without a try. So that was very good to see from him, and came back from his first game from a hamstring unscathed, which is very pleasing to see. He's not going down much in price. He had a break-even of 86, projected to go down 14k, but he does have a 98 break-even coming into next week. So again, he's probably someone where, I've got someone like a Jackson Purdue who's peaking in price. Well, he made so much money, but, he's got a very good long-term draw, but he doesn't play round 12. Am I considering going a Purdue to an Eero, potentially as that stepping stone just to get to a gun now? Maybe. I still might get Kale Eero, but you just need to be wary of round 13 and missing that week as well. But I think what we saw from him this week was nothing different to what he's done all season long. He is a gun. Never a bad time to get him. You just got to be wary of those round 13 numbers. And Will Kennedy was also good in this one, 63 points. I think he got 1, if not 2 try assists in this game. Yeah, he got 2 try assists. What I wanted to point out with that is that, again, the Eels just always keep conceding points to opposing fullbacks, and they generally do concede points on their edges. And so I think anytime we've got a fullback coming up against the Eels, generally it's a good matchup to target. It's why I was so keen on people to hold KP, because he went well this week, but he had Titans and then Parramatta. And I just kept saying, keep KP. You want him for that 3-game run. So Will Kennedy was decent in this one. Fanul Blake, probably not an option that I'm really heavily considering, maybe during Origin, but he played 43 minutes in this game for 45 points. Last week was a golden point game where he played more minutes of 62. The 2 weeks before that, though, he did also play 43 minutes. So it does seem as though that kind of low 40s, maybe creeping up to 50, is kind of what his minutes are going to be. He's had more games playing 50 and 40 minutes this year than he had over 60. So for Fanul Blake, he is probably going to be a little bit capped in terms of his Supercoach potential this season, just because of his lack of minutes compared to playing at the Warriors. But he still could be a good cover during Origin period. But the fact that he misses round 13 as well is another reason why I'm not really overly looking at him at the time. For the Eels, again, they looked much better with Moses, but obviously Sharks are a good team. So Addo-Carr scored a double for 106. Dillbags was good as well in this game with a try and a try assist for 77. I still think he is a very good get at 5'8". If you're someone who is still holding on to Jaden Campbell, with Burton not goal kicking, Dylan Brown was the 5'8". I did say, look, he's probably the safe one that you can rely on. He plays round 12 and round 13 as well. And he's got dual halfback 5'8", which could be handy for flipping if you still own someone like a Luke Metcalf, who we'll speak about later. He's going to go down a little bit in price, but look, low 600s, he's down about 25k on his original starting price. I think the fact that Moses is back is just really good for him. Dolphins and Knights next couple of weeks isn't terrible. Manly in the bye week, and then Penrith coming off Origin as well. So not a bad little run there, I guess, for Dillbags, and that early bye cover is good. Doesn't play 15, but even if you look longer term than that, in those interim weeks between 15 and 18, he plays the Titans and Dragons. 2 very good matchups there. Doesn't play round 18 either, but they do play all the mini bye weeks, just looking at this year. So not good for major bye coverage, but very good for your mini bye coverage, which is almost equally as important. So still very good get, Dillbags. Junior Paulo was good with 72. Mitch Moses, again, solid, but not goal kicking. I think just makes him a bit difficult to get as a halfback option. I still rank Cleary, Hughes, and Hines above someone like a Moses. Iongi was also very good in this game, got a try assist, but only the 56 points. Look, I sold Iongi for Drinkwater last week. Obviously, Drinkwater's done very well with 2 back-to-back tons, so I'm very happy with that move overall. He's not going to go down massively in price, Iongi. I think he just fell a little bit short of his break-even. But he's going to lose like $1,000 and have a break even of 27. So he's still going to make some money, but it does feel like we are at the time where you can probably look to get to your 3 gun fullbacks. In my head, it is Teddy, Drinkwater, and Pappy, I think, that are the 3 gun fullbacks that you still want to be chasing. And I think Iongi, while he's solid, there is probably enough of a gap where it's still fine to upgrade him to one of those other gun fullbacks. Riley Smith was actually good in this one with 50 points. That's probably his high score of the season, I want to say. Not fact-checking that, but all in base stats as well, which is very good to see. I know people have been looking at him as a bit of a downgrade at hooker. 14 break-even coming into next week and making about 17k. Again, I don't hate it. People like myself who own Connor Watson, the Roosters Origin players missed a lot of games during the Origin period, and he's on the bye next week. If you wanted to free up bulk cash, Riley Smith is probably the best cheapy hooker to go for because he's actually playing and just offers you some depth. And as we saw, he covers all those mini bye weeks as well. So not a terrible option to get if you wanted to free up bulk cash, and if that's your ticket to get in big guns like Drinkwater, Tedesco in the coming weeks as well. So that's something I will potentially consider as well, getting in maybe a Riley Smith if I wanted to free up money. I haven't fully decided what I'm going to do with my hooker position next week because I have Sandon Smith and Connor Watson. They're both on the bye. I might just have to cop an auto emergency potentially next week. Nothing much more really to speak of, I think, on the Eels side of things. So let's move on to the Roosters and the Dolphins that we got chatting about. Connor Watson. Oh, Robert Toya. What have you done to us? To be fair, I'm not really that disappointed about having his points on the bench. I was never really considering playing Robert Toya. He's just been a bit average so far this season. He's been fine, not average, but he had a couple of early decent scores and more or less was punching out like 40s. Like if you look at those last round 2 to round 8, nothing in those scores suggests that he's going to go for a massive ton. It was just a circumstance of the game where Sandon Smith got ruled out after 7 minutes with a HIA. So all the attacking ball went down the right-hand side. Marky Mark got a double, Robert Toya got a double, but nothing for the left centre or left winger for the Roosters. So huge score from Toya. I think he was about 73% bench, so majority did bench him. I know a few people who did play him, obviously wildly benefited here from 148 points from a relatively speaking low-owned player because so many people didn't play him. I'm just happy to see that that's going to spike some new cash generation because I know some people were thinking of him potentially as a sell. He's going to have a negative 29 break even now coming into next week and making about 100k, close to 100k for us. So he's going to be really getting that cash gen going. And I think it's probably just also another good lesson for with these cheapy centers. They can just spike big scores every now and then just restart some cash generation. It happened with Purdue, happened with Tamale, it's now happened with Toya. It could happen with Jenkins. I haven't seen Jenkins play yet today. I did sell Jenkins in the end for Fletcher Sharp, which I'm happy about. But, Jenkins could still spike a big score and, restart some good cash generation as well. Rob Toya covers all the major bye weeks and mini bye weeks. So that was my main reason for not selling him. It'll be interesting to see whether I decide to play him in coming weeks. It's purely going to be matchup dependent. Like after the bye, the Roosters come against the Bulldogs. If the Bulldogs show something better, I probably won't be playing him anyway. So, Rob Toya for me, I think big score, but look, I'm just happy about the cash generation. And Teddy, 130 points. The man, I think, is just going back to what he was doing from last season, just punching out humongous scores every single week. A couple of try assists in this one. I think he had 2 line breaks. There we go, 2 line breaks, a couple of line break assists, plenty of runs. It's just a classic Teddy SuperCoach performance. I didn't jump on Teddy this week purely because he had the bye and then the Bulldogs. And I wanted to get in other players who were going to cover me better for those future weeks. I already owned 5 Roosters players. Teddy was going to make it 6. That was my main reason for not going there. Look, now I've made my bed. I think in that decision, I'm probably just going to have to wait until round 12 because round 11 is the Bulldogs. So, unless they're really leaking points in the next couple of weeks, and I think it's a good matchup. Historically, that's the season so far anyway. Not been a good matchup for point scoring. Teddy's a gun though. He can easily still punch out 70 to 80 against the Dogs, and I wouldn't be surprised. I just want to see now Origin because if he continues to kill it, and if Edwards has a bit of a slump, potentially there's a chance that Teddy plays Origin, and then all of a sudden he's not going to be an option. But if he plays round 12 and is available, he will probably be the most number one picked player, most number one captain player, probably the most important gun player that you do need during the bye period. Matchups themselves, I think, in those particular weeks aren't amazing. Yeah, Sharks and Raiders in the first major and mini bye week, Knights and Cowboys following that, and then it's the Tigers and Dragons. So it's not amazing matchups, but they're fine. And Teddy's just a gun. We know he can get big scores against anyone. He will miss round 14, miss round 17. So there are going to be a few games that he will miss. But look, for me, I think his upside, he's just kind of rinse and repeating from last year. I think he's going to be someone you have to own if he's available during that Origin period. Victor Radley scored a double with 34 points. Probably not someone I think a lot of people will be looking at seriously. Marky Mark, though, is a nice pod. 91 points, scored a double. Scored a try last week as well. I think he punched out a 70 plus points game last week. So, sorry, he's been someone I think that people have been eyeing up as a bit of a point of difference. Yeah, 69, 72 and 71 in the weeks prior, and then even an 86 in round 2. He's just been a good SuperCoach pick. The problem is that we've already got so many Roosters, and also centers is just stacked. I've got now Marzu, Fletcher Sharp, Karaz, Purdue there. Garrick was on the bench this week. I just don't know if I can fit him in. That's the problem. If you've got a slot though, if you've got an underperforming center, if Jenkins underperforms again this week and you want to move on someone, look, you're not moving to him next week anyway because of the bye and then probably the Dogs, but someone you can consider as maybe a bit of a point of difference come round 12. Obviously, of course, with that Sanders Smith HIA, so we're just seeing him down here, he's updated to 0. In terms of AEs, because I know some people are going to have questions about AEs, from what the rules say, your AE will come in if it's someone who has scored above 0. So what it looks like as well, as it currently stands, is that he's not getting included in AE. I always thought though that if the player actually made the field and played, that they would get considered irrespective of whatever they scored. In the past, you might have had people who, I think, something like Pirakura had like -10 last year, and still came in as people's AE. My expectation was that he would have come into people's auto emergency, but then even then he would drop out again with the flex. So overall, I don't think Sanders Smith has killed VC loopers. It just really meant that someone like a Billy Smith, for example, if you had a Billy Smith in a normal week, maybe he would have dropped out. But with the lower score than 34-0, Billy Smith's score would stay in. But yeah, Billy Smith, a little bit disappointing. But as I said, I think it's all of the ball went down the right-hand side. If you look at all these left-side players like Angus Crichton, 44, Billy Smith, 34. Tupou's okay with 60. But yeah, most of the attacking points went to their right-hand side players. Connor Watson moved to 5'8" as a result of that injury. So less base stats in this one, but more attacking stats. He got a try and a try assist. So in the end, still punched out a very good score of 69 points, which I'm glad to see. But yeah, I'm going to have to think about what to do with him next week because he's going to start missing a lot of games now if he gets picked for Origin. I might just wait for next week and reassess in round 12 potentially, because if he's out round 12, then I know he's going to be a sell for me because he misses too many games. And I could just go straight massive downgrade. I could even just get like a cheap enough maybe not enough hooker, but maybe just some cheap bench player who offers a little bit of depth. Hugo Savala, 62 points, another good game from him. He picked up the goal kicking with that Sanders Smith injury, so that obviously bumped up his scores, an extra 16 points. But a try assist, a lot of try contributions in this one as well. So he's going to make a lot of money for people who jumped on him this week. -31 break even and making 56k. So he's been a good little downgrade for people this week, and probably has his job until about round 14, round 15. Naf White also good with 59 points, played about 51 minutes, so stock standard, but the game had a bit more time in play, so his base stats were a little bit better this week. Someone I didn't play because I was a bit scarred from last week's 38, but look, 59 points is okay. It's not the worst thing in the world to see on your bench, and he'll be a definite hold for me, I think, during the Origin period. Just too many games being played in those critical weeks where he will be playing probably slightly bigger minutes just due to maybe Spencer Lenu plays Origin, Lindsay Collins, other forwards maybe like Angus Crichton. He's just going to be relied on a little bit more by the Chooks. So very happy to hold him. And yeah, Angus Crichton, a bit of a down game. I don't think many people own anyway. On the Dolphins, Hamiso Tabai Fido with 81 scored a double. Doesn't matter if his team's getting beaten, he still managed to always find attacking stats. And Farnworth backing up another good score with 78 points with a try and line break again. This time a bit more fortunate because he was found on the wing in that particular play when he scored. But still, apart from that, like someone who scores a try and gets you up to 80 points is a good reflection of him in terms of having his good underlying base stats. So just looking at his base power here, we're looking at 24 plus his 10, what's that, 34, plus 39, plus about 15. We're looking at about just a tick over 50 in base power, which is kind of what he's been doing a lot of this season. It's probably a little bit down, actually. I think his early season base power was about 60. It's kind of dipped a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but look, he's gotten attacking stats to still bump up to very good scores. Connolly Lemuelu with 74. Isaiah Katoa, man, like he just continues to still do very good. 73 points with a couple of try assists, but I just don't think he's going to be an option for us because we're going to be looking at the Cleary, Hines, and Hughes, I think, instead at halfback. And look, he could be maybe a point of difference. Like he covers round 12, but he does miss round 13. So, and I think if you ask people, they'd rather take the goal kicking, a higher upside guy, probably in a Nico Hines, I think. Moving on to the Saturday game. So we're looking at Rabbitohs versus the Knights. Plenty of points in this one for a lot of people, myself included. I was relying on the Knights to turn it around and get some attack on the board. The Rabbitohs were just decimated with that news of Whiten being out, so I just wanted to load up on the Knights players. I went Greg Marzu as vice captain, bought in Dylan Lucas, and also bought in Fletcher Sharp in the end for Jenkins. Spoke about Fletcher Sharp earlier on Tuesday. He wasn't in my initial trade plans that I showed in the video, but I did mention when we talked about the center's guns that I was very keen on Fletcher Sharp, and he just was one of those players who hadn't scored a big ton yet this season, and just trying to predict when the ton might come. He's got that upside. He showed it last year. I just thought the next 3 games would have to be the time because they were just such good matchups, and Rabbitohs had conceded the most points to opposing 5/8 so far this year. And on his 21st birthday, if I'd known that as well, I didn't know that, I definitely would have been more convinced, but I was convinced enough still to bring him in and very happy with those 128 points. I know it's a bit greedy, but I am disappointed with the vice captain on Marzu because just prior to the game, I was thinking, do I just slap it on Fletcher Sharp because of that stat of, Rabbitohs conceding the most points to opposing 5/8s? I just decided, look, let's go with a higher upside guy that I thought was Marzu because I thought, look, he got 74 points with only one line break. If he scores 1 or 2 tries, he's going to get 130. In the end, it turned out to be Fletcher Sharp who got the hat trick of 128. And my other regret was that I moved the vice captaincy off of Drinkwater, who I actually had on for most of this week. And that would have been a good play because it would have benefited me in another 50-something points if I had taken the vice captaincy on Drinkwater instead of captaining Terrell May. But it is what it is. Look, I'm still very happy with my trade-ins of Lucas and Fletcher Sharp. Both got attacking stats. Dylan Lucas got a try assist for Jack Cogger. Obviously, Fletcher Sharp scored his hat trick, and he's going to be coming into serious consideration when, again, I don't want to toot my own horn because obviously it paid off this week, but this is always the thing I try to play in my head as much as I can. I think it's probably helped me this year having a good start to the year. Obviously, I don't know where I'm ranked come the end of this video or end of this week, but just trying to preempt, like, if X player does this, what's going to be the reaction, I guess, by the Supercoach people and Supercoach community, I should say. And my thought was, look, Fletcher Sharp pretty low owned. I think he was about 8.8% owned by the top 10%. And I just thought, look, if he gets a good score against the Rabbitohs, even if it was like 9,500, people are going to say, oh, big score. He's got the Titans this week. He's got the Eels. Then he plays round 12. Then he plays round 13. And then people are going to start jumping on. And it's just about trying to guess 1 week ahead, 1 or 2 weeks ahead of when the crowd will make that move. And that's, I guess, how you just keep staying ahead in Supercoach. Like, I've not been good at this as well in the last few years. I've always been much more reactionary. I've not been good at jumping on players before they do well ahead of everyone else, and that's what I'm trying to get to this year. So a move like Fletcher Sharp was, I feel good about it because it was one of those moves. So yeah, he will definitely be coming into serious consideration. I spoke a lot about the draw already in the Tuesday video, but he's going to have a projected break even of 31, going up about 58k. So he is going to be early 600s, like 620. Still a good price as well. And look, I think there's absolutely no reason to not be buying him as well. He's got good base power stats as well. That's the thing I do like about him a lot. I think his season average is about 50 coming into this week. And I don't know what he got in this particular game. Obviously, mainly got attacking stats. But he's still looking at 28 points plus 14. What's that? 42 plus 13. Yeah, we're still looking at about close to 60 in base power. So he's still someone who puts out good scores, even without any attacking stats. It's a score you look at in your centers and think, yep, this is just fine. And that's exactly the same with Marzu, who scored 64 points without that line break that he got towards the very end of the game. It's like Marzu had 40 points in runs and then 22 points in tackle busts. Like, this is why I bought Greg a few weeks ago. Some people who may not have had Greg or Fletcher Sharp, I guess the question is going to be, which of the two would you buy? So Marzu is going to have a 93 break even coming into next week, going up 48k. Sharp's going to be a little bit cheaper. I think with just playing prices and break evens, probably Fletcher Sharp is the one I'd be buying. And Fletcher Sharp could move to fullback as well in the bye weeks if Kalen Ponga does play Origin. And Dylan Lucas, like good base stats, had a line break assist, try assist, but you take those out, he still would have scored 69 points. For me, he's an absolute must. I think he's completely fine in your second row forward, fine in your center wing. I've got him in my flex at the moment. But yeah, I think he's going to be someone you have to own. I think during round 12, round 13, just the whole Origin bye period. The fact that the Knights don't have a bye until round 18 is super handy. And yeah, Kalen Ponga returned to form here with 98 points. So yeah, congratulations to anyone who held on to KP or even took the punt on captaining or vice captaining. You were rewarded in this game. And yeah, Brabham Best as well scored very well with 105 points. I think this game just clearly shows, like, you look at those top 4 scores, the Knights are best when their left edge attack is firing. That's where all of those top 4 guys operate. And then you've got like a Marzu as well with 74 points. Shout out to Leo Thompson as well, who scored 77 points and had only one line break assist. Like, big output from him. But as we say, front row forward is stacked. I'm not sure how many more front row forwards you want to be buying in your team. And yeah, Gagai was very good as well with 71, Kaipi's Paul 62. A lot of very good scores here from the Knights players. But yeah, I think your top candidates for sure are Sharp, Marzu, Lucas. Brabham Best is maybe a bit more of a pod, but he's potentially an Origin smoky. And I think if you didn't jump on Ponga this week, he's probably one that you just have to let through to the keeper. The next 2 weeks are very good, but then he will miss Origin unless you're happy to play that fullback roulette. Like, for example, if you don't want to jump on Teddy because he has the bye and then the Bulldogs, get Ponga for 2 weeks and then switch him to Teddy if you want. That could potentially be a play as well. If you're happy to, that's probably the best way to maximize points, but you are burning through trades, I guess, doing that as well. For the Rabbitohs, to be honest, I'm not really overly looking at any of their players. They're injury decimated, but they will get Latrell back, I guess, next week. Campbell Graham scored 60 points with only a try contribution. So, he's been someone who I haven't really been monitoring his price, but he's 434k. So he's at good value. But I feel like just, again, centers is a stack position. You want to be chasing these guys with high ceilings, and the way that the Rabbitohs are going at the moment, they're just probably not quite showing that. A lot of injury problems are hitting them as well. No other massive scores there. I guess one thing to keep an eye out for is Peter Mamazelis. He actually, I think, dislocated his shoulder was the word at the very end of the game. I think he still played the full 80 minutes, so I think it may have happened towards the end. I'm just going to quickly double check what Mamazelis' minutes were. He played 80 minutes, but yeah, there was some word about a dislocated shoulder. So just keep an eye out on that, because if he's injured and he's going to be out for a few weeks, then obviously you might need to make a move on him. Someone like a Riley Smith, just to free up funds, could be the guy that you want to go to. Lockie Hubner played 38 minutes off the bench for 36 points, so good PPM, but he's probably one that you could look to move on if he continues with a bench role. So Hubner's projected for a break even of 58 and losing about 15k. So if this is going to be his continued role, he will start losing some cash. I couldn't sell him this week. I had to sell Jenkins instead for Fletcher Sharp. If I could have afforded Hubner to Sharp, that would have been the guy I would have sold instead of Jenkins, because Jenkins still plays round 12. I don't think Hubner plays round 12. No, he doesn't, but he plays round 13. Look, he's someone that, not urgent sell, but if you can move on, definitely someone that you can cut ties with. Onto the Warriors and the Cowboys. So, very, very interesting game, this one. 30 points to 26. It will look like it was all going to be the Warriors, and then the Cowboys came back late in that second half to make a much more closer contest of this. As I said before, I took the vice captaincy off Drinkwater, which I'm a little bit gutted with, because if I stuck the VC on Drinky, I definitely would have looped his 127 points. But look, he was very, very good in the second half of this game. Even in the first half, he was on about 50 points at halftime. He had, I think he had an early try assist in the game, which I can't remember who he put someone over. Sorry, I can't really quite remember at this point in time. But very, very big second half. He was very close to getting another 12 points in try assist to Murray Taulagi, but he went out into touch, but Drinkwater still got the line break with that. Yeah, Drinkwater and the Cowboys are looking good despite the loss in this game. They put on points in the second half, and Tom Dearden scored a try as well for 76. Nanai a try and a try assist for 83. The same culprits as last week, basically, who scored well against the Titans. And Murray Taulagi, I just want to give a quick shout out to him. He's just been scoring tries every single week for ages, and he's been putting up some serious SuperCoach scores. Now is probably maybe not the right time. He's 690k, also came out of nowhere that he was close to 700k. But if you just look at his scores so far this year, apart from round 1, he scored 23-31, then he went 73, 69, 90, 75, 99, and now 98. Look, I know most people probably wouldn't have jumped on Taulagi just because of how the Cowboys were going in the early part of the season. And then they also had a bye going into round 7. But anyone who owns him, congratulations, because he's been a serious point of difference. I guess the problem is that now he's probably likely to play Origin, you'd think, for Queensland. So he's going to be missing a lot of games and doesn't cover round 12 anyway. And I think a lot of us already own a Purdue, who I mentioned a little bit earlier. He's scored 46 points. He's probably just about peaked in price. So Jay Schubert's got him projected for a break even of, 96, and going up about 26k. As it currently stands, he's not someone I think I'm still looking at trading, because I think he was close to more attacking stats in this game. He scored an early try, but he was close to a couple of others. He's still, for me, passing the eye test. And while he's maybe peaked in price, he still made so much money that even if he starts losing, even if he loses 50k, he's still in the end net you 340 something k. So he's still done his job and more as a cash cow cheapie. But for me, I think I'm going to keep keeping for the time being. Cowboys look like they're in a good run of form at the moment, at least when it comes to scoring points. And when it comes to Drinkwater as well, I should mention that very quickly. So he's going to be going up about 78k and projected break even of 7. So he will be getting into the early 800s. And games coming up will be against, let me just quickly check, Panthers next week at home. So subject to what you see from the Panthers today, you might want to be still jumping on. Then it's Manly as well at home, and then he misses round 12. Well, we covered this, I think, either last week or the week before. Long term, the Cowboys have got so many games playing at home, and I think he is in my top 3 fullbacks. Teddy's probably number 1. Drinky at the moment, maybe 2, and Pappy number 3. The fact that he's goal kicking, he won't be origin affected. After round 12, he covers every game during the bye period, so he's going to be absolutely gold during that run. I think he will be someone that I would be suggesting still to target. Unfortunately, you've missed a couple of really big tons from him now. I know people who held off on going Gutherson to Drinky. I was an advocate for that just because I didn't want to risk losing that money on Gutherson and also Drinkwater going up in price. Before this week, it was about 32k to make that swap. Now it's going to be, I don't know, I haven't done the maths, but it's definitely well over 120k, I think, to make that Gutherson to Drinkwater swap. It's still something I'd probably do though, because I think I'm seeing plenty out of the Cowboys for me that would make me want to invest in Drinkwater, and even enough to hold a Purdue. But there's a lot of talk about the team that lost. We got to give a shout out to the Warriors, of course, who won this game with scoring 30 points. Luke Metcalf, I think we were all premature in selling him. I'm just gonna throw myself in that as well, because honestly, since that time we all sold him in round 5, he's actually been completely fine. 54, 59, 56, 47. Really 5'8", hasn't had that many stellar performances. Like Cam Munster's been going around mid-50s as well, and now he's banged out a big 119 points. The Warriors cover round 12. I don't think there's any harm still in going back to Metcalf if you are holding it to Jaden Campbell. So they play round 12 against the Raiders. They do cover round 13 as well against the Rabbitohs, so that's not a bad matchup. They miss round 15 and they do miss round 18. So they're going to be good through the early stage of the bye period. Towards the latter end, they won't be as good. So that might be putting some people off, but I just wanted to give a shout out to him and also to Harris Tavita. They've both been putting up very good scores at a very tricky 5'8 position. Harris Tavita scored 84 points with a try and 2 try assists in this one. They're both very similarly priced as well, about kind of the late 400s. Both of them will probably be jumping up into the 500s now, which makes them a little bit more, difficult to invest in. But Harris Tavita, honestly, from round 1, I wish I'd just started with him and Munster. I can't even remember who I had as my backup 5'8". It was Metcalf. But yeah, it would have been nice to have Harris Tavita, because if you look at his scores so far this season, he's just been so consistent. 51, 74, 50, 59, 51, 55, 59, and now an 84. His lowest score this season is 50. He's going to make close to 200k as well for owners. Like, he's just been a very reliable option, which is probably what he is. If you are thinking about buying him, he's just going to be a reliable option. Covers round 12. Me personally, I've got Dewey and Munster, so at the moment I'm probably not looking at making any changes in 5'8". But yeah, just wanted to give a shout out to those two boys because they've actually been very good. Ed Cossey as well scored a try for 73. Aaron Clark with 63. I'm pretty sure all of that is in base power. I'm just going to quickly double check what minutes Aaron Clark played, so just bear with me for a second. Aaron Clark, he played 69 minutes. So again, very, very big minutes from him. We're seeing more of that trend where Fisher Harris and Dylan Walker being out has meant big minutes for him. He played 64 minutes last week, 61 the week before. So he is playing 60-something minutes in this new role. So he's still someone I think worth getting. PPM was a little bit down with only 63 points, but there were a lot of points scored in this game as well. So that probably did reduce the base stats, I guess, amongst the forwards in general, which I'm kind of seeing across a lot of these scores here. But yeah, good win by the Warriors in the end. And final game to cover in this particular section will be the Tigers and the Dragons. So big win for the Tigers here at Magic Round. Terrell May was my captain with 79 points. Look, any other week, most weeks this season, I probably would have said, you know what, I'm completely fine with that. I do feel though that a bit of regret, I think. Look, I can't complain about 79 points because it's still a good score, and he played 76 minutes again, so he's still pumping out these big minutes. But it's just when you're seeing around you all these people who vice captain Hines, Teddy, Drinkwater, KP, some people even went Fletcher Sharp, and they're looping and getting 240, 250 points from their captain, and I'm getting 158. I'm a bit like, nah, it's okay, but it could have been better. We'll see how Payne Haas goes this week. But look, 79 points is still very good from Terrell May. Absolute hold. I might watch the back end of that game. A few people were saying that he looked a little bit gassed towards the end. And that the reason I want to just monitor for that is, it surely can't be sustainable that he keeps playing 70 plus minutes in the middle every single week. It is what he's been doing all season long. But if he plays Origin, surely those minutes will have to come down at some point in time. So next week, I haven't looked at captaincy ahead for next week, but I'm just a bit annoyed at myself that I didn't stick with the VC Drinkwater because I could have spiked myself an extra 50 points, but look, Terrell May will take that 79 points. Thank you, sir. 87 points from Charlie Staines, scored a double in this one for a big score, but probably not someone I think many people are going to be considering. 407k. He's not even like a cheapie either. But Alex Seyfarth was very good in this one. I think he's got a try assist, 77 points, so good for anyone who's held. And Dream Buller was very solid, 66 points. I think his real life game looked a little bit better than his Supercoach point scores actually show. And Dewey, 55, got a pretty lucky try as well to bump up his score. I played him this week just because the Dragons had shown some tendencies to concede points to that right edge defense. So Dewey for me was a play, and I'm happy enough with the 55 points. Lower games from Galvin and Luai in this one, but points a bit more shared around in this one for the Tigers. For the Dragons, Jacob Little was good with 98 points. I think he scored a double in this one. Borrowed over from one and was backup support player in another. Dylan Egan, 97 points. Now, I sat Dylan Egan this week. I just wasn't sure about like minutes and things like that. He played 73 minutes. So that was very, very encouraging to see. It makes me think that last week, potentially he did cop that hand knock and the game was kind of beaten at that time. So then maybe they said, look, you've been playing big minutes. Have a bit of a spell and we'll get you back up to bigger minutes in the future. 73 minutes was very good. I think Emre Gula may have also picked up a injury in this game. I think it was some kind of dislocation, because Emre Gula only played 31 minutes, but I'll just keep an eye out for that. I know NRL Physio has been enjoying Magic Round, so not many injury updates, but if there's another issue with Emre Gula where he's out for some period of time, that's only good for Dylan Egan and his minutes. So I didn't play him. I just wasn't sure about minutes, but I'm happy I've held on to him because that's going to spike some new cash gen as well from him. Again, another trend we're seeing is that these cheapies, you don't always just need to sell them at their peak because sometimes they may just have another cash rise in them. So Egan is projected to have a break even of 22 and making about 29k. So that's good. He's going to have a relatively low break even again. But yeah, most pleasingly, I think, is the fact that he played those good minutes. Val Holmes as well with 94 points. He's been someone who I didn't jump on because I knew that he would probably play Origin. But since then, he's actually pumped out really, really good scores. I think he is probably a, no pun intended, a run Holmes, a gun center wing that you can consider. A bit tough to invest in during the Origin period, but if you look at his last few scores since apart from round 2, his lowest score has been 65. He is a gun center wing for sure. He misses round 12, but the thing with Val that is good is that he generally does back up from Origin, so he will probably play round 13 and 14. He misses round 15, and then he doesn't play in round 16. Honestly though, I don't hate just jumping on him in round 17 when he has Parramatta at home. He misses round 18, but then he backs up. He'll probably back up in round 19, and then you've got him for the rest of the season with no more buys. I honestly don't mind just targeting him in round 17, knowing that you're probably missing him in round 18. But if your numbers are good, that round 17 game against Parramatta could be a very high upside game, because the games in between aren't amazing for the Dragons. So that might be the right time to jump on Val. But anyone who's jumped on so far has been rewarded. Lycan King Tongia with 83 points, a couple of try assists. He'll be very interesting to see because he's obviously got this very big score. He's bottom dollar at 5'8". If he pumps out another big score again next week or even a decent score, and if he gets named again for his third game would be happening in round 11. So just maybe keep an eye on that with your trade plans potentially. If you wanted to bring him in at 5'8", you could free up a lot of money going down to him. I've got maybe Adam Dewey that I can move down to him to free up money. Now I've got maybe some duels as well that I might even be able to sell like a Lockie Hubner to him, because I can go Hubner out, Dylan Lucas up to my second row forward, move a center to flex, therefore Hubner's in my center, Dewey down to center, Bob's your uncle, a Hubner to King Tonga. And that was actually one of the reasons why I liked getting Dewey in at that time that Campbell went down, just to enable some of these kind of movements within the team. So definitely a firm eye on him. Hamish Stewart with 79 points scored a late try to bump up his score in this one. So I think if anyone who jumped on him early in the season as a bit of a cheapie, you'd be happy with that. Makes about 37k. And I think his minutes were okay in this one. He played 48 minutes, which is fine. Of course, I need to shout out Jaden Sewer in this game as well. If you haven't watched the highlights, you must watch that snippet of Jaden Sewer. Literally, there's some great pictures going around online of snapshots of Jaden Sewer over the try line, and the captions being, the West Tigers scored from here. Like, he literally just needed to walk over the try line. He's need the ball out of his own hands, and Dream Bullers picked it up and run 105 meters and scored for the Tigers. So, funny stuff there. Toby Couchman with a good score as well this week, actually, as well, of 69 points. I just want to see what his minutes are. He played 56 minutes, so highly slight minutes from last week, and good PPM in this one. Clint Gutherson, 43 points. No major attack stats for Gutherson. This is now, the 5th week in a row where Gutherson's I mean, since that 130 he got against Parramatta, he's gone 54, 57, 44, and 43. I was very hot on selling him this week. I just thought, look, I think we're seeing a bit more, I think the early parts of the season was probably the anomaly, and we are seeing more of the norm where, Carl Flanagan scored well, 73 points, try assist. He's the one I think who's the dominant playmaker. And people were wondering, with Ilias out, is that better for Gutherson? You probably saw the opposite. King Tonga had a big role in this game with a couple of try assists. Gutherson is just not getting amongst it in terms of attacking opportunities. And yeah, for me, I sold him this week. I'm very happy with that because he's obviously going to be leaking a lot in price. He's going to be going down about 70k and having 121 break even. So that move that we spoke about before of Gutherson to Drinkwater. So going down about 70k, he's going to be around 650 and Drinky's going to be around 820. So that move's going to cost you now like 170k. Is that right? Yeah, about 170k. It's a big swing, which is unfortunate. For me, like Warriors at home next week, again, it's a home game, but this is one of those things where I think people may have experienced it with Ponga. For me, I'm not really worrying so much about matchups. I think it's more about the role and the eye test and also the position he's in at fullback. It's just too stacked. Obviously, Teddy's on the bye coming into this week, so you don't necessarily need to jump on him. But I think Drinkwater's there and available with 7 break even. I think you just my advice is to still sell Gutherson. And even if you can't afford a Drinky, all those Knights players we spoke about, if you can move to him via flex, like Fletcher Sharp is eligible at fullback, you can go Gutherson to Fletcher Sharp for pretty much the same money next week. And you're just picking players who are going in opposite directions in price. And you can make other plans to get Drinkwater down the line. But yeah, for me, Gutherson is a sell. I just don't think he's passing the eye test at all. I'm happy I moved him on this week and didn't cop another big price drop. Corey Allen, 39 points. I know some people are looking at him as a bit of a cheapy centre. Not enough for me to, I guess, be interested. But yeah, that's the game so far. There's 3 more games to go, which I'll record. I'll probably put this out on Monday morning. I probably don't have time to put it out Sunday night, but we'll see you all for those following games a bit later. Alright, so taking a look at the first of the Sunday games, which was the Gold Coast Titans taking on the Bulldogs. Pretty convincing win in the end for the Bulldogs, 38 points to 18. Just continues to show that the Titans are a team that we should consider still attacking, leaking a lot of points. And, they come up against the Knights next week. We spoke about the Knights already. That's going to be a good matchup for those SuperCoach guns like Fletcher Sharp, Greg Marzu, Dylan Lucas, Kalen Ponga as well. Big winner, I guess, out of this one is Jacob Kiraz. Scored a hat-trick for 137 points, which is very good to see, sitting in my starting lineup, which was good. Didn't bench a huge amount of points as I normally do each week. Well, Rob Toyer is looking at me from the non-player reserves. But yeah, Kiraz with 137, really good score. He's going to go up quite a bit in price. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the Jay Schubert projected price changes. So he's got Kiraz going up 45k with a 43 break even. So he was actually at a good price this week at 680. So he's going to be around 720. So it's not too far different from his original starting price. And with the Bulldogs, they do cover all of the major buy rounds. The question is going to be, I guess, with Kiraz, does he play Origin? Obviously, a good performance today. I still think it's going to be like a Lomax, Brian To'o situation. If Lomax isn't back fit, I think they might put Tom Trbojevic on the wing, though. I still think he's safe to not play Origin. And then he's going to be really useful during those major bye weeks. He does miss round 13 and 16. So he does miss the first 2 mini bye weeks. So you just need to be careful with that. But he versus Parramatta and the Rabbitohs 14-15. Dolphins in 12 was also not a bad matchup. And Broncos in 18, but that'll be a team without all of their Origin players. He will be one of the more higher owned players in those major bye weeks. So definitely I think is a target that you want to be owning by then. And projected break even, I think we said 43. You're not going to go massively up in price, even if he pumps out another 89 score next week. And he's versing, I think, the Raiders, not a easy matchup you'd call it, but he's definitely a prime target. Can't talk anyone out of buying Kiraz. Connor Tracy was really good. He's a player that I know a few people have mentioned to me as a potential option. I've never really considered it because I think he's just never quite been SuperCoach relevant in previous years, but a big score of 121. Just seeing some previous scores, 31, 80, 36, 62, 53, 63, and 90. So generally a solid season. Season average so far is about, I think, low 60s, I want to say. 59.3, obviously a big score in this one. But again, it feels like similar to last week when Drinkwater went big, or Tom Dearden went big. I think if you are thinking about these players, you really got to buy them going into the week versus the Titans, ideally, that's the matchup I think you want to be targeting. At the moment, I'd probably say that is the number one matchup to target. Parramatta have improved slightly with Mitch Moses being back in the team. Titans for sure is the team I'd be most interested in having my attacking players come up against. Stephen Crichton, unfortunately for him, it looks like if he does keep the goal kicking, he would have been actually a really good point of difference centre to consider. Unfortunately, though, if he plays Origin, he's going to be terrible during the bye period because the Bulldogs play all of those Origin weeks. So that's 3 extra games he's going to miss, and plus missing those mini bye rounds. It's just going to be really difficult to invest in him. But Bulldogs players will be relevant during the bye period, as we spoke about just then. And Jacob Preston continues to deliver a try assist in this game for 87. He just generally always finds attacking stats, whether he's on the left-hand side, right-hand side. Really like Preston as an option in your back row, and probably one of the better ones as well during this bye period. So if you've got the ability in your team to make moves in second row, if you're trying to upgrade the likes of Hubner, etc., Preston is still a really good target as well to consider. And I'm not really looking at many more Bulldogs players. I think your main ones there are Jacob Kiraz, maybe Tracy is a bit of a point of difference, and Jacob Preston. I know Reid Marnie scored 66, but he has had low games this season. He's still not really someone I'd be considering. And for the Titans, same names, Beau Fermor, 100 points. Of course, I was considering Beau Fermor this week, and I'll tell you what my trades were as well. So I did trade Gutherson to Lucas, but I ended up trading Jenkins to Fletcher Sharp. Now, I will say that and this is not hindsight because he scored very well, but I didn't love selling Jenkins. I thought the fact that he played round 12 was handy. No Casey McLean was good. We spoke about him as a decent hold on the Tuesday stream. I still stand by all of that. And I knew that when selling him that, look, it wasn't an ideal trade, but I really wanted Fletcher Sharp. I couldn't sell Lockie Hubner for Fletcher Sharp. If I could have afforded that, I 100% would have done that instead of selling Jenkins. And I didn't want to sell Egan yet because, I thought there might still be a little bit more left in him. So I'm glad that Fletcher Sharp went very well. But, Jenkins, scored 2 points less than him, and he's going to make a bucket load more money. So I think Jenkins owners will be happy. The reason I mentioned Jenkins is because originally I was also looking at Hubner to Beau Fermor, but I didn't like his buy coverage. It looks like he's a good chance for playing Origin, but again, anyone who jumped on this week, you'll be very happy. Scoring a double for 100 points just continues to get those big attacking stats. Definite focal point as well for the Titans in attack. He's going to make a good amount of money, 95k, with a negative 24 break even. Does feel like now it's going to be really hard to invest when, look, honestly, his price will still be okay at like 640k coming into next week. After that, though, if he hits 700, it feels like Hudson Young from a few weeks ago, just at a price where it's just not really value. But he is definitely a serious option, maybe post Origin if he does get selected. If he doesn't get selected, he is someone that we can look to during the bye period. And Tino was very good in this one with a we'll call it a bit of a lucky try assist. He tried a bit of a chip and chase, but 93 points from Tino. Very happy with him. He's probably one of the players from the Titans, at least, or Origin players, who I'll probably be trying to keep, I think, during the bye period. We'll get into this maybe in a little bit more detail in the Tuesday stream. But Titans Origin players only miss one extra game, and Tino feels like he's that important for the Titans. He should probably back up, I would imagine. So I think Tino is one of those guys who's not going to really be that unavailable for us during the bye schedule or bye period. So I think Tino for me will be someone I'll ideally like to keep hold of. I think he's a set and forget season keeper and another really good score this week. And honestly, I'm not really looking at many other Titans players. AJ Brimson, a bit disappointing with only 27 points. Tom Weaver got the early HIA, so he only scored the 5 points. Not many other points scored elsewhere. And a lot of missed goals, unfortunately, for one Brian Kelly. Look, he's not a noted goal kicker. He had to step in when Weaver was out. And minus 6 points in goal kicks. Didn't really have the boots on today. Moving on to the second game, which is the Penrith Panthers taking on the Broncos. Very good win from the Panthers overall here, 32 points to 8. Not a game or result I was expecting. I was expecting Broncos at Suncorp and Magic Round with a Panthers team who haven't been that good. I was thinking it would be the Broncos, but Panthers just showed still that they've got the class in their team to pull out these victories. And Cleary on his way to 134 with a try, very, very reminiscent of the 2023 one that he scored. That was instant flashback seeing that. I'm sure Broncos players and fans probably got PTSD seeing that step off the left foot. But just another game where Cleary's just done Cleary things, a try assist, plenty of goal kicks, a few tackles in there, tackle bust, a forced dropout. A couple of line breaks, like just accumulating points all across the park. He's been a bit frustrating because he's been very difficult to kind of tip when to captain him. Last week I captained Cleary, scored 52 points, and I thought, nah, let's play it safe. Terrell May, he scored 79. If I just captain Cleary, 134 points. So it would have been a really big score. So I don't know what the percentages were on Cleary captain this week. I think probably not too high considering it was an away game against the Broncos. Home on paper, but realistically it was a home game playing at Suncorp. But yeah, Cleary, I think for me, will very happy with that. He'll be going up in price as well. I believe he had a break even around the 50s. So yeah, he'll be going up about 64,000 and a break even of 57, which is good to see because, I spoke about Hines earlier. He's going to be going up in price with his big score. But if we do decide to sell Cleary, at least if Cleary's price is going up, you're still able to maybe free up money if you did want to sell Cleary to Hines just throughout that origin period. But just again, a reminder with Cleary that he can pop out these big scores. And he's not a definite sell during the origin period because, we know the Penrith Panthers need to win games. It's just a fact. They're just not in that pretty position like they have been in previous years. And they have really good matchups during the bye period. So if he plays round 13, it's against Parramatta. Then he's got the West Tigers. So look, West Tigers haven't been that bad this year. So maybe that's not the stellar matchup, but Parramatta in round 13 does look really good. After that, he versus the Bulldogs in round 17 at home. He might miss round 16 because that's, I believe, the game that's in New Zealand very soon after the Perth game 2 in Origin. So that might be one he misses. Round 19, though, he versus Parramatta. And if you look at his run home, Parramatta, Rabbitohs, Tigers, Titans, Knights, Storm, Raiders, Bulldogs, Dragons, he'll be someone I think will be a must-own from round 19 onwards. But I think he's fair enough consideration to sell in round 11 when he has the bye because he'll be missing round 12. Just round 13 might be a very hard watch behind a couch if you don't own a Cleary. And yeah, we spoke a little bit about Jenkins already. Very, very good hold for anyone who kept him, scored a double in this one. 4 line breaks as well. So look, I don't think many people would have played him. Just having a look here, 71% of people benched Tom Jenkins who owned him, and he had 15,000 trade outs, me included. But as I said, I think he was the best candidate. I thought I could move on for a Fletcher Sharp. Didn't obviously work out in that I could have just kept Jenkins and obviously made a lot more money out of him. And I'm not necessarily disappointed because I kind of thought this might happen. Maybe not 126 points, but I thought 60s, 70s, 80s, because we spoke so much about how Casey McLean was hurting him. And we spoke a lot already in the stream about these cheapies who are, getting slightly higher break evens, but then they just need another big score to restart a second round of cash generation. Jenkins is one of them. Again, Dylan Egan was one. Tamale was another one as well today. So yeah, very good hold for Jenkins owners. Now, we also potentially have a cheapie front row forward, Luron Patea, 232k, scored a try, a few tackle busts in this game as well, so scoring 81 points in total. Again, I'm not 100% sure if he's got good job security. I guess depends with Scott Sorensen out for the next 3 weeks. Just someone to keep on radar because the Penrith Panthers do play round 12. So if you are looking at selling a front rower, maybe if you're looking to cash in on a Corey Horsburgh, you can maybe free up a lot of cash potentially going down to him. And Luke Garner with 69 points was much better for Thomas Jenkins, and Dylan Edwards 66. Now, I actually missed the last kind of 10-15 minutes of this game, and there was some word that Dylan Edwards did potentially pick up a hamstring injury. I just want to see if there's anything I can find very quickly on that. But if there's nothing I can find on that, just potentially keep your ears or your eyes out on that one. I know NRL Physio has been a bit busy this weekend, but just see what happens with that if there is potentially like a hamstring injury, because that's got a lot of relevance when it comes to Tedesco. But I won't comment much more on that, just given that there's no confirmed news on that, but just something to keep an eye out for the next week. Blaze Salangi as well, 65 points, was a good point of difference, 5'8" for anyone who maybe went for him. Only the one single try assist, but a couple of line break assists as well in a overall solid performance. And Lindsay Smith 60, Zayo, a bit of a down game with 56. For the Broncos, just the usual suspect with Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan, 89 and 79 points respectively. So Payne Haas won the battle between him and Terrell May in terms of Supercoach points scored. Just having a quick look at Payne Haas's minutes because I couldn't quite remember what it was off the top of the head. 67 minutes, which is kind of what he's been punching out in the last few weeks. It looks as though that's going to be his role in terms of minutes. But yeah, look, it's again a tricky discussion for next week because there's so much chat about captaining front rowers going into this week. I still think it's a very viable strategy. It's just about picking the right vice captain, isn't it? Unfortunately, this week I vice captain Marzu. I took it off of took it off of Drinkwater last minute. It just meant I couldn't loop, and that probably did cost me about 50 points in the end. So not ideal. And we'll get into my total score as well at the end. But yeah, Pat Carrigan, very good with 79 points. Selwyn Cobbo looks just very comfortable at fullback. He's probably a good option to consider in your center wing if you are looking for a point of difference, but he will probably play Origin, although I think for the Broncos players it doesn't really affect them that much. But 68 points, no try or try assist in this one, so all in generally in work rate. So he's not someone who typically is renowned for having high base stats, but if you take out that one line break and line break assist, you're looking at kind of 50 points in base power for Selwyn Cobbo, which is very, very solid. So I don't think the Broncos play round 12. I don't also think they play round 15. I'm just going to quickly double check that. Yeah, they don't play round 15, nor do they play round 12. They do play the mini bye weeks though. Manly round 13, Sharks round 16, and the Titans round 19. They actually play the Titans twice. In that period, they play 14 and 19. So a couple of good matchups in there. He's not that expensive at 461k. Just have a quick look at maybe what his projected break-even is going to be. Break-even of 11 and going up $8,900. So not a massive change in price. So someone you can consider if you do feel like you've got a slot available in centers, because he's looking good and passing the eye test at fullback. Pretty solid scores as well for Shibasaki, 55, and Jesse Arthurs as well, 46. But I think these are players that maybe a few people have already moved on. Still think these are guys that are fine to move on as well, given that they don't have to play that first major bye round. Just wanted to quickly then get onto the last game. Obviously, very exciting finish with this one. Melbourne Storm going down in a golden point game, 18 points to 20 to the Raiders. Sufar Longo, man, 107 points. He's just like, I don't know how he's not in the top. He would be in the top 17 for almost any other team, I think, in the competition, if it just wasn't for Melbourne being as stacked in depth as they are. But he's just a jet. He's such a good option when he does play. The problem is that we just never quite know what his job security is, but scored a try, great try assist as well for Pappenhausen for 107 points. K Weeks, similar, 101 with also a try and a try assist, but K Weeks has been a pretty disappointing hold for I think a lot of people, so I don't think I'd be recommending K Weeks as an option as a trade-in. Pappy, very good, kept the goal kicking as well, which was very good to see. Scored a try off a kick, so no line break with that. But yeah, very solid, 78 points there from Pappy. And Tamale as well. This is one thing I did shout out, I think, on the Tuesday stream, was that Melbourne did have a bit of a tendency to leak points on their right side defense. And Tamale benefited in this one, scoring a try for 74 points. So he's just continued to be a really, really good moneymaker for anyone who had him from the start of the year. I unfortunately didn't, and I've never jumped on him. It's okay though, because we've had so many other cheapies come up that I don't think cash has been the problem. But yeah, -6 break even and scoring 74. He will still continue to make very, very good coin. He'll make another 65k and have a break even of 30. So he's going to be getting up over the 300k in terms of cash gen. So he's definitely been one of the better options. The Raiders, I think, look, even though he's making so much money, I don't think he's someone you need to rush to sell. Yes, the Bulldogs is tough, but they're starting to leak a little bit more points. Like they leaked 18 points to the Titans, and it's a home game. Then they play the Titans themselves in round 11. You definitely want to be owning and playing for that week. And he plays the first major bye round and the first mini bye round as well against the Roosters and the Warriors. Warriors in round 12, Roosters in round 13. And just with their long-term draw, like he's got good base power stats, and the Raiders just have like a really, really good run for the rest of the year. So after next week when they play the Bulldogs, realistically, the only tough game you'd say they have on paper is Penrith in round 25. But long term, there's just a really, really nice set of games for them. So I think he's someone that honestly you don't need to worry about making plans to cash in. I think you just need to find the time when he's got a very high break even, or maybe cops an injury or something like that, or a few low scores, and you want to cash it in. When you want to cash him in, that's the time to move on. Otherwise, nothing wrong with just keeping Tamale. He's been very, very good. Tarpany solid as well with 69 points, and Matt Timoko with a try for 67. Emmanuel Nicholson as well, 64 points. I played him this week. Very happy with that. Just had the one try contribution. Otherwise, pretty much all in base power stats, apart from the one line break assist as well. So about 50 points he scored in base power. More concerningly is probably going to be Corey Horsburgh. So played 44 points and played 49 minutes. Again, I missed bits of this game, so there was some chat that potentially he got a HIA. I might just have to double check that one. So apologies for not having all of that information to hand. But yeah, only the 49 minutes, so a bit of a down game. He's going to lose about 14k and have a projected break even of 67. So I know some people have already started at looking at selling Corey Horsburgh, especially if you think he's going to be playing Origin. He will miss some games for the Raiders. So it's something that I'll give some consideration to as to whether I want to move him on. He's one of those guys who, when I brought in Dylan Lucas into my flex, he was one of the candidates who I thought could be someone I can sell for Tedesco, because I've currently got Corey Horsburgh on my second row forward. So I can bring Lucas up to second row and then straight sell Corey Horsburgh to someone in flex, which most likely would be Tedesco, subject to him not playing State of Origin. So Corey Horsburgh, I think, will eventually be on the chopping block for me. It may not just be next week, it may be in a couple of weeks' time, just to see how it all pans out. Unless I think there's a very clear reason to sell. He's still been very good for the season. Just a bit of a down game, 44. Just remember last week, he obviously scored very well. So just probably in this particular game, a bit of a down one. Tom Starling as well, a bit of a down game as well, only the 41 points. I'm just going to quickly check what his minutes were in this one. So, because he's been playing above 60 minutes in the last couple of rounds, which has made him still be a bit of an okay option. And he played 70 minutes in this one. Of course, minutes for everyone is probably a little bit inflated, given that the game went to 85 minutes. For the Melbourne Storm, I was really riding on this game for my Melbourne Storm players. Put it this way, it shows you how crazy this round was in terms of scoring, that Cam Munster's 43 was the lowest score in my squad that dropped out. Cam Munster was the lowest score that dropped out, and he played 85 minutes. It wasn't even like he had an injury-affected game. Just one of those weeks. So the second lowest score I had was Jackson Purdue. And I've probably had a bit of a down week as well compared to the majority of others that you're seeing out there. But yeah, 43 points from Munster. No major attacking stats in this one. So a bit unfortunate there. Or actually, sorry, he did get a try assist in this one. So yeah, a bit of a down game in terms of work rate. Jerome Hughes, only the 47. He's been a little bit disappointing, I will admit. I think when I traded in Jerome Hughes, I haven't really gotten any big scores out of him. I traded him in the same week that he had that injury, and I think only scored 16 points. So he's lost a lot of money for me, and he hasn't really spiked me a big score. And I guess the direct rival was Nico Hines, and Nico Hines has definitely outscored him in that period of time. So I think I probably made a mistake on that one, and he doesn't play round 12. I remember trading him in, really banking on the good run of games that the Storm have had, and I just don't think they've quite clicked in that period of time. So it can show you the negatives of really stacking in on a team. I don't necessarily regret it, because I think it equally could have paid off, and I could have been sitting here thinking I've stacked in on the best team in the competition and absolutely benefited from it. Just hasn't quite planned out, I guess, with Jerome Hughes. Because he doesn't play round 12 or 15, I think he won't be a major target for people, maybe unless they're selling Cleary in round 11. Otherwise, he's someone that you can very easily just look to get potentially in round 13, because he does play all the mini bye weeks, which is very handy. Eli Katoa was solid with 65 points, and we spoke already a little bit about Pappenhausen. Otherwise, not too much movement there, I guess. Bronson Garlic, 46 points. He was a bit of a nuffy downgrade option I had shouted out earlier on the Tuesday stream as well. He played 71 minutes, so the minutes were good, but Harry Grant could be back as soon as next week, if not the week after. So that's all the games done and dusted. So I quickly just go through my team. So I ended up on 1497. And I tweeted out 1540, but that was before the Cam Munster score actually dropped out. So in the end, it was 1497. It's ridiculous to think that 1497 is going to be red arrows. It's just one of those weeks. I've had a quick look at live rankings. I'm more probably going to be going down to the 2,500. So I think I jinxed myself by getting up to 500 spot. I said the only way is downhill, and it's been consistent red arrows. Luckily, I haven't had like any major drastic weeks that have caused massive negative red arrows. I've just been not able to nail those 50-50s that I think I was able to get at the beginning parts of the season. Captaining Terrell May, for example, if I'd stuck the VC on Drinkwater, I probably would have dropped Nicholson out of my squad, and I would have taken the VC loop though. I would have gained myself probably net 30-40 points in the end, so I would have been around 15-35. Honestly, I was never really considering playing Toya, so I'm not necessarily disappointed about that. Like, my trades, I think, have been fine. Like, maybe not Jenkins to Sharp, fair enough. Jenkins scored very well, but getting Sharp in was fine. Scored 128 points. And Gutherson to Lucas was definitely, I think, a good move. That saved me about 50 points and definitely a lot of cash, because Gutherson's going to be going down a lot in cash. And so some of these 50-50 picks about, getting in a Jerome Hughes when, Nico Hines actually has outscored him, and the majority actually owned Nico Hines over Jerome Hughes. So I'm kind of losing against the pack there. And yeah, I think captain picks, didn't play Sandon Smith last week. And I think the big one for me is probably not jumping on Teddy earlier than I did. I think if I jumped on Teddy earlier and was able to get Teddy for the last couple of weeks where he's gone bang, bang, 130 points, that probably would have seen me stay afloat at that 1,000 rank. I've just unfortunately missed out on that. And yeah, some of my sit v starts haven't been great in the last few weeks. This week, I think I don't feel as bad about it because I never really was considering playing Egan and Toya. Toya hadn't really shown much to me, and Egan, we weren't sure about minutes. Nicholson over Naf White worked out. I didn't play Sandon Smith, so I didn't cop that score of 0. I just thought Dolphins necessarily aren't a terrible team. Because as I said, Cam Munster's score was the lowest, 43. And my captain got 79, which in most weeks would be fine. I just didn't nail that big vice captain or captain. But yeah, 1497, that's Sunday updates. So I expect I'll probably update over 1500, which is cool. But yeah, I'm expecting a red arrow of about maybe getting down to about 2,500, which is still a very good start, but I do want to really turn the ship around. It's been a few weeks now of red arrows. Next week, the Roosters are on the bye, so hopefully I shouldn't be getting any sits v starts wrong. Early trade thoughts, I don't really know just yet what I'll be thinking of doing. Maybe making a downgrade of like a Corey Horsburgh potentially, or maybe trying to get a Hubner out. But I do generally feel like next week could be a week I sit on my hands because I haven't saved trades really up until this point. I do want to save trades because I know that round 11, it could be potentially Cleary out for Nico Hines. And then round 12 is probably going to be me making 3 trades. Because if someone like Tedesco is available, I think I'm going to have to get him in. And I'm probably going to need to make 1 or if not 2 downgrades to be able to fit him in. So next week could be a week I sit on my hands. But we'll get into all that good stuff on Tuesday. Oh, Siri, thinking that they want to chip in. No. Not needed necessarily here, Siri. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. Please do give it a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up. That does really help me out. And see you all on the Tuesday stream.